Hey, welcome back to Saathwic Infotech AWS Learning Series. Today we are in our day 12 of our AWS Learning Series. So today, actually, I was in plan to explain you about cloud trials, but pardon me, guys. So I want to go with my subscriber Satya Sai request. So where he have been requested to make video on VPC. So hope the guys whoever like watching my video continuously might be aware of the video we have made earlier for VPC, where we have been discussed about what is VPC and what is a subnets and other components, and also we have discussed about few networking basics in VPC, how to give the CIDR block, how to calculate the number of IPs in the CIDR block and everything. Okay, so I'm just going to add up few more things to that, and also I'm going to explain you in case, okay, if you guys I'm not sure like how many of you are planning to move to architect roles. If you are an architect and you have been asked to create a VPC and provide the best practices to segregate the subnets and everything, so how to do that with our AWS, and also in real time, how does the peering works in AWS VPC peering. So basically, I'm going to cover all those topics in this today's session. Okay, I hope this will be again an interesting session. I request the new subscribers to watch our earlier videos so that you will get much more insights on the use cases whatever we practiced so far. Because I might be using the reference to those use cases in between, so that you don't get into any confusions. Okay, yeah. Let's move on to our sessions, right? Okay, what are we going to do today? So if you guys are following my session, you guys might have created an AWS free tier account. So when you guys create an AWS free tier account, what happens? AWS provides you with an default VPC. Okay, AWS provides you with a default VPC. That default VPC is a completely pre-configured VPC, where you are going to do like either you create a few subnets additionally, or you do like changes to your IP addresses, maybe the CIDR block changes and everything. Nothing much we have done so far, right? So if I want to, if I ask someone like either my subscriber Satya Sai, hey Sai, like can you please create a VPC with like a different CIDR block, okay, like 10.42.00/16, okay, and provide me the subnet with like around 4,000 plus IP addresses, like create two subnets and host an EC2 machines in that, because this is going to be used by my HR business unit. Okay, then are we ready to do that? Are we having confidence to do that? So that's the question. Okay, so today we are going to create a separate VPC. I will make it as a C, which is meant for custom VPC, or you can mark it as HR VPC, whatever the way you want to configure. Okay, then I am going to configure the subnets. Okay, and I am going to configure the CIDR block for the subnets. Okay, and I will know like list of IP addresses which will be used. Again, how to, because like when I create a VPC, you know, right, VPC is a kind of a private area. Okay, inside your private area, because the private area is meant for whole account. Okay, inside that whole account private area, you are creating one more small private area which is nothing but subnet. Okay, so inside the subnet you will host your AWS services with that particular range of IP addresses. Now finally we have two VPC, 1 and 2, right? So how do I interact, yeah, instances from HR department to my payroll department VPC? Let's say this default is a payroll department VPC, or like kind of an anything employee relation VPC or whatever it is, right? So how do I interact from this VPC to this VPC? Because VPC is a private block. Okay, only it accessible only within these subnets. Now I want to connect two private blocks together. I want to establish some relationship. So this relationship is something like we call it as VPC peering. Okay, there are multiple ways to do that. One among them which we are going to see for today's session is VPC peering. Okay, without the further ado, let's go into that. And there are few more additional concepts which we'll be discussing here and there, like route tables, how to configure route tables and everything, why route tables are required and everything. We will see those in detail when we while doing the practicals. Okay. Before that, let me close this out. Let me go to my AWS console. Let me search for VPC. Okay. Okay, we are in our VPC. So let's have a quick look at our default VPC. Okay, if you have a quick look at your default VPC, you will see something like this is my VPC. In my VPC, I have two subnets, one in zone A and one in zone B. These two subnets are connected to the route table. From the route table, it's getting connected to the internet gateway. Why internet gateway? Internet gateway is the one which is going to establish a connectivity to the external world or to the external systems, whatever it is, right? So, for example, if a user wants to access your EC2 from their local desktop, basically it's an external world connectivity, basically gateway. Where what we call is a gateway. For example, if you are living in your community, there will be a community gate, right? Means that with after crossing the gate, they can able to interact with their community people. So that's nothing but internet gateway in AWS terminology. Okay. So every VPC will have its own gateway here. So anybody who wants to enter to this particular VPC, they can only enter with these gates. No other way they can enter. So internet gateway plays a vital role for our connectivity. Okay, great. So now we are going to create a separate VPC with all these setups. So you better understand everything. Okay, let me go to VPC part. Create a VPC. Okay. I am going to create only VPC because I don't want system to do anything. I am going to do all the configuration. So I am just going to create only VPC. So let me name my VPC as HR VPC. Okay. What type of IP address I am going to use? I am going to use IPv4 CIDR manual input. If you want, you can use IPv6 also, but I don't want to do anything with IPv6. I am going with IPv4. So what kind of an IP v4 range I can use? CIDR block, right? You have to decide because it's your VPC. So let me take like 10.47.0.0/16. So this is my VPC CIDR block. So if you have any doubts like how many IP address it will get, hope I have explained how to check that in either with the IP address calculation website or how to do it manually also. Okay, I'm not going into that detail. If you really want to know those details, I will either put the video in the task, okay, so that you can watch it. Okay, basically I'm not going to use any IPC6 CIDR block. I don't want to use, okay, name, it's already picked HRVPC. I am not going to add any other tags. Let me create this VPC. Okay, now we have a VPC. So if you, maybe I will open that in a different tab. Duplicate tab, so that you guys will understand what is the difference between our default one and the new one, right? So if you go here in the default one, there is a VPC block and subnet block and route table block and internet gateway. Let's see here. What do you see? Whenever I created a VPC, it automatically created its own route table. So we don't have any necessity to create any route tables here. We just going to update it. So any network connections created? No. Any subnets created? No, because like once after creating the VPC, we know the actual CIDR block. From that particular CIDR block, I am going to create a subnet with subset of IP addresses. So let me go and create a subnet. So create a subnet. So for creating a subnet, you need to select in which VPC you are going to create the subnet. So my subnet is going to be part of HR VPC. So what is your subnet name? HR, maybe in HR, we have employee relation subnet. Okay, great. So do you have any preferences to availability zone? I would say always create any US East 1A. Okay. So it says for VPC you have used this CIDR block. What is your subnet CIDR block? So I would say 10.47 because I cannot change that 10.47 because that's a parent CIDR block. Okay. So what can I do? I will put like some 64.0/20. Okay, so I can use 4096 IP addresses in this particular subnet. Okay, then everything got created. So let me create this subnet. Okay, my subnet is also available. Let me go back to my VPC and see what is the changes to my flow. Okay, great. So I have a VPC, I have a subnet now, so no issues, and I have a route table. Great. What is missing now? Internet gateway. Okay, let me show that also. Before we look at internet gateway, let's look at like what is there in our route table. Okay, if you look at your route table as the destination of your VPC IP address. Okay, so and it says like okay within that particular VPC it can able to route the traffic. Great, fine. Let me go to the console and try to create an EC2. Guys, these are very important to understand what's happening when we create something, right? So let me create a new instance. So this instance name is ER employee relation underscore EC2. Great. So as usual, I'm going to select Red Hat image, one of my favorite, and T2 micro. Again my key pair. In the network settings, so if I want to change my EC2 in a new VPC, okay, I need to change my VPC here. My VPC is HR VPC. So in HR VPC, I have an ER subnet, so it's got selected. So auto assign public IP enable. So I want my EC2 should have an public IP address. Okay, do we have any security group? I don't have, so I am asking it to create the security group. Let it create the security group. So the security group will allow inbound rule as SSH 422. That's fine, and allow any connections from anywhere with this particular default shader block. So storage and everything is going to remain same. Let me create the instance. Okay, great. So our instances got launched. Let's see if it's ready state. Probably it may take a minute or so to become a ready. Because this time we don't have anything to do with other configurations, right? We don't have any user data. So if it is ready, then it will be available for us to use. Okay. Meanwhile, let me open my mobile XTERM. SSH IP address EC2-user. Let me use the private key in my documents. Okay, let me check if it is ready. Okay, so our system is running. Let me try to connect to the system and see what's happening. Okay, I am trying to connect to the system. Oh no, I could not able to connect. It says connection timed out. I cannot connect to the system from my local. So what might be the issue? Why can't I connect to the local? So the newly created VPC as a subnet. In the subnet we have an EC2. Okay, but this subnet does not have internet gateway created yet. So if you don't have any internet gateway, you cannot connect through it. Okay, it cannot even connect outside. Okay, well, the connection can be only with local from the console. Okay, now let me make the connection available from the external user, which means that from my laptop. Okay, so let me go here. Let me go again to my VPC. VPC. Let me open the default VPC here so that you will understand. Okay, see the route table. From the route table, you have internet gateway connected. This is more important for your VPC because internet gateway is the one which is going to associate to a VPC and establish the connection. So let me open my VPC now, HR VPC, whereas I don't have that. So let me add some network connection. So network connection are nothing but internet gateways which I am going to use now. Okay, let me create an internet gateway. Let me say HR internet gateway. Okay, so it came create internet gateway. Okay, great. So if you see I have an internet gateway, but is how do we assign this to the VPC? Because internet gateway is a separate service, right? So it's a separate entity or separate component. So I have created an internet gateway. Now the next step is to assign this to our VPC so that it help us, right? So when you go to action, there will be something like attached to VPC. Okay, click on that. Now search for your VPC. So this is a VPC which does not have internet gateway. So that's the only one which is popping up. So select that one, attach internet gateway. Okay, now for this internet gateway, this VPC ID is got attached. So it says status stays like attached. So now go to your VPC. Okay, so we are back to our VPC. Let's see how our VPC flow looks like. Okay, now we have a VPC, we have a subnet, we have a route table, and we have internet gateway. Oh no, see now the route table is there, internet gateway is there. Let me see that my connectivity goes now. Okay, it's not going. So what might be the reason? So we have internet gateway associated to the VPC. Still, okay, the request, okay, the user request which is coming in does not know where should it pass that request. Okay, the request should come to internet gateway. Internet gateway check the route table and pass the request to the subnet. Okay, right now the connectivity between them is not established. Okay, that's the reason we are failing it. Okay, let's check our existing one. Okay, where is your route table? You see, right? Internet gateway connectivity for any input from any source, it goes to the target of internet gateway. Earlier, it was like from this IP only to the local. So we need to add this. This is missing. Let's check our route table. See, it can take only local connection, not from external world or from any other IP address. Okay, now let's add the route. So what I am going to say is from any IP address. Okay, if the request come from any IP address, forward it to where can I forward? See, this many services I can forward, but I want to forward it to my internet gateway. Okay, this is my internet gateway, correct? HR internet gateway. Okay, great. Save the changes. Let's go back to our VPC and refresh it once to see whether we are able to see the connectivity back. Okay, now we have a subnet, we have a route table, and it's getting connected to internet gateway. So let me try to connect the server again. Maybe I will press R. Yep. Now it says I am authenticated and I have connected. Guys, hope you understood till this point. Okay. We have created our own VPC. We have created our own subnet. We have created our internet gateway. and connected that internet gateway, or maybe establish a connectivity from internet gateway to the subnet using the route tables. Okay, great. Again guys, if you are not sure about the CIDR blocks or how did I arrive with this IP address and other things, I have explained already in detail. Okay, so you can get into that. If you have still further doubts with those topics, please do feel free to comment. I can explain again in another session. Okay, hope you got clear understanding till this. So where are we now? Okay, let me clean up all this because I even don't like the way I diagram. Okay, fine. Where are we now? So I have created a VPC. I have a subnet. I have one EC2 and I have an internet gateway. Everything is ready. This is my HR VPC. So the same way I have a default VPC where I have a subnet. I will have an EC2. Okay, I have an internet gateway. Okay, and I need to establish a connectivity between this VPC to this VPC. Okay, that's what our goal is. So what I'm going to do, let me use the default VPC and create an EC2. Go here, instances, launch instance. Okay, it's going to be my maybe like payroll EC2, something like that. Red Hat. Instance type is T2 micro, my key pair. So I'm not going to touch anything because this is my default VPC. And I know in my default VPC I have a security group, so I'm going to select the same. No more differences with our default process. Okay, I have an instance now. Okay, so our payroll EC2 is also in running state. Let me grab the public IP. Okay, here is the public IP. Okay, I have copied it. Let me go to my mobile system. Okay, so let me go here. So EC2-user. That's completely unusual. Okay, my keypad documents. Okay, okay, accept. So great. So now if you look at, I have two EC2 from two different VPCs. Okay, so both of them are from two different VPC. Okay, so what I am going to do, I am going to access. Our goal is, see, our goal is to access this particular EC2 from this EC2 and this EC2 from this VPC. So we will need to access, make a communication between these two EC2 machines in different VPC. Let us check what happens now. Okay, let me copy the IP address of this one, the private IP address, because the internal communication goes through the private IP. Okay, let me do SSH. Okay, before I do that, I need a key. Upload my keeper. Okay, what happens to this? Okay, so I have uploaded the key pair. Let me rename it because it was having with space. I will change it as auth file. Okay, basically the key file should not have a broader permission. Let me change this to 400. Okay, great. Okay, so now I am going to try to connect to this particular machine using its private IP. So public IP is 202, right? So 202 is a public IP. I'm going to use a private IP now. So how do I connect to this machine from this machine? Basically, we use SSH. -I is to specify the PEM file, which is nothing but auth file. Okay, then EC2-user is a username and the private IP. So if I use this particular command, I should be able to connect to this particular machine. Okay, let's see what's happening now. So ideally now it won't allow, because like this particular machine is in different VPC and this one is in different VPC. So it's not allowing us to connect. So what should we do? We need to enable a VPC peering. Okay, by default AWS does not allow to connect EC2 instances from different VPC, because as I mentioned earlier, both are different private zones. Okay, it's been associated for a isolated zones basically. So those isolated zones cannot connect. If you want to make it to connect, there is a separate process called VPC peering which we need to do. Let me show you how to do that. Okay. So if you are in your VPC, let me close all this tab because my AWS is sorry, my Chrome is also killing the RAM. So I am in VPC. If you scroll down, you will see something like VPC peering. Where is VPC peering? Why I'm not seeing that? Yeah. So here, so you have something like peering connection. So let me select that. Let me create a new peering connection. So peering connection name is like HR2 payroll. So if I am assuming like one VPC is HR VPC and another VPC is payroll, I'm just saying like HR2 payroll. So it's asking me select the local VPC to peer with. Okay, to give you the VPC peering concept, right? VPC peering can be done with regions also. For example, if you have some servers in data center, basically like if you want to configure a disaster recovery, okay, for your EC2. So for disaster recovery, generally people will keep their EC2s in one primary region. Maybe if it is US East one, they will have the DR in a separate region. Okay. So as part of the synchronization process, so if I want to have a seamless DR, my primary region should sync all the data to the secondary region. That's a use case. Basically, we go for VPC peering and other things, right? Okay. So let me erase this one. Let me explain you with the real-time use case. So, for example, when why should we I go for two VPC peering? Okay. So I have a primary server called P. Okay, this is my DR server. So if my primary server is in US East one, and my DR I can be used in Asia specific, maybe Mumbai. Okay, I can use my DR in Mumbai also. So in order to have a seamless DR, okay, if I want to enable my DR and all my services as primary in my Mumbai region, I need to have my replication. So let's assume that I have two EC, one EC2 running in primary and DR. If the data present in primary should be synchronized with the DR server. If there is no synchronization, then I don't have my DR ready at all, right? So generally people will use some tools like rsync or other things to synchronize the data between the EC2. So for that we need a communication to be enabled. Okay, that's where like people will go for an VPC peering. But in our use case, I'm not going to enable VPC peering at the region level. So that's why I did not explain this concept. I want to enable the VPC peering within the same account in the same region. Okay. So if you go here, that's why the name says like local VPC. Let me select any one of the VPC. I will select my default VPC as my local. So it says select another VPC to pair with. So whether this VPC in the same account or in a different account. Okay, we can even enable VPC with the different accounts also. So I'm going to enable the VPC peering in my same account because the account is one, because I don't have multiple accounts. And also like it's asking you like whether you are going to set up the VPC in the same region or with another region. In my case, I'm using the same US East one as my region. So the first option I have selected. So who is the acceptor? So from this VPC, the request will go. Who is going to accept the HR VPC? Okay. Now I have said who is the source and who is the target VPC. That's it. Let me create a VPC connection. Now it will ask you to accept the VPC peering connection because it's all in the same account, right? So now it says pending acceptance. You can accept or reject the VPC peering connection in the action menu. Okay, let me go to the action menu. So I'm going to accept it. Okay, accept request. So if you look at here, both requester owner ID and acceptor owner ID is my own account. Okay, so that's where. Okay, now if you see the VPC peering is enabled. Okay, great. So I have a peering enabled with two VPC. Let me check the connectivity now. My VPC peering and everything, my VPC peering is active. Let me try to execute the same thing now. So it says connect to host on port 22 connection time dot. Let me try to connect it again. Duplicate tab. Let me close this one. Okay. LTR, SSH-I, auth file, EC2-user at, let me copy the private IP. Private IP of this one is this. Okay. Let us try to connect now. Again, it's not working. By any chance, you guys able to recognize why it's not working? Okay, that is a tricky part. Let me explain that. Okay. So we have created a peering connection. Okay. Let me open this out. Let me delete this one. So peering connection is again an entity, separate entity, right? So you created a peering connection. Let's assume this is a peering connection. Okay. In this EC2, we have an internet gateway. This is the internet gateway. We have some route table. Okay. Whenever any external connections comes in, okay, it comes to the internet gateway and it goes to the route table and get routed. Okay. Now, when we have a VPC peering, in the route table, we have not specified anything. When, for example, when this VPC raise any request to connect to this VPC, it connects to the VPC peering, and the internal route table does not know where should it route the traffic. Okay, that piece is still missing. So that's where we need to configure. Okay, we need to update our route table so that the connectivities go smooth. Okay, let me open one after the other. Okay, this is a route table. So I need to edit the routes. Okay, so now this is the local. So this IP address is a local and we have a connectivity to internet gateway. Now we need to say, okay, this VPC is 27 here, right? Let me go here, VPC. Guys, you should be little careful here because this is more important to understand. Okay, VPC. Okay, IP address is 1047. That's the CIDR block, right? So 1047 is this one. Okay, so for this VPC route table, I am configuring. So if in this VPC route table, it should know that whenever a request comes from this particular IP address, okay, then it should point to VPC peering. Okay, it should send the request to VPC peering. That VPC peering knows where to transfer the connection. Okay, so I will go here. I will give this IP address as source. It means that whenever a request comes from this VPC, where should it route? It should route to VPC peering connection. So where is the peering connection? Okay, here. So it should route to the peering connection HR payroll. So what it means? So whenever a request comes from this VPC, it goes to this peering connection as an input. This peering connection knows where should it route to the other VPC. So that's what I am doing it. Great. So we did it for one route table. there will be the other route table for other VPC. So I need to do that so that the reverse connectivity is also enabled. So edit this route, add route table. So let me go out here. So now what I am saying is from this particular VPC. So if the connectivity comes from 47, okay, route it to the peering connection again. So that two-way the connectivity will go. Save the changes. Okay, let me explain again. Maybe I am a little bit confused here. Okay, we have two VPCs. Let's take as A or B, whatever it is. Okay, when a connection comes from this route VPC, this particular CIDR block, okay, in the route table, we will say if it is coming from this particular VPC, route it to peering connection. Okay, this is a peering connection. This peering connection knows to which VPC it has to route to. You are getting my point? So that's what we have done here. The same way we done it in both the ways. Okay, so let's check it the connectivity and confirm that. So I am here. Okay, I am connecting from this server to the other server. Now I am able to connect. Let's try the same here also. Okay, so sorry guys, like I have very bad performance in my laptop today, so I need to do some cleanup. Let me go to the console. Okay, we are in this particular EC2 instance. We need to go to the other instance now. Okay, let me copy the private IP. Okay, so again I need to upload the key file here, which is not available. Let it get uploaded. So ls-ltr. Let me rename this. Move this to athfile chmod 400 aoth file auth file. Okay, great. Let me copy the private IP again. ssh-i auth file ec2-user and this one. So as we enabled the connectivity in both the ways, it should work. Yes, it's working. Okay, great guys. So that's it for my today's session. I thought of explaining you guys with an real time example how to basically like I want you guys to understand the VPC route table concepts and like internet gateways, subnets, and also along with that I want to explain you about the VPC peering. I think which I have covered it pretty well, but apologies again, apologies for the little bit of slowness in my PC. Let me check that and fix it out before our next session. Okay, if you guys really need any particular topics needs to be covered in AWS or anything, right, just feel free to comment in our videos so that I can able to pick it up and explain you guys with in detail. Okay, thanks guys, thanks for watching. If you guys like my videos, please feel free to subscribe and share with your friends. Thank you.